Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order at 7:03. First issue is article preview and discussion for special town meeting. You all got the warrants, you need a hard copy there, right there.
Okay.
So, town manager,
So,
you're up.
if you don't mind, if you'll indulge me, I want to talk about free cash first, since everything is based on free cash.
Yep,
And I sent a memo out a while ago about free cash, and we have a very good free cash number this year. It was $10.41 million, or $10.141 million. And it's not completely unheard of. You've had $10 million in free cash 2 years ago. But the thing you want to make sure is that under DOR guidelines is that if you too much free cash, then you get perceived as overtaxing the public. So they recommend that your free cash number be between 5 and 7% of your total budget. And it is, your total budget isn't just your budget, it's your budget plus a few other things that you see on the recap sheet and some capital items too. But I used the state's numbers, and the state had us at 6.45%. So we're just below 7%, so we're right in that window where we should be. So if the issue comes up at town meeting that we're being overtaxed, I can refer to this, that we are right within the guideline that the DOR recommends. Now that's important from the negative sense too. It's just like anything, like you don't want to set a tax rate and then end up short, right? So that plus or minus 5 to 7%, I think, is that window that makes sure that you don't end up on the negative side of that. But if you end up at 15%, then maybe you should reevaluate the way you're projecting your revenues and things like that. But we're right where we need to be, and as a result, the numbers we have are 10 million. And then in the other accounts, there are 3 other accounts that are like free cash accounts, but they're defined differently. They're all called retained earning accounts because they're all enterprise accounts. So cable is very stable. It's 2.992. It went up a little bit, I believe. Cable, went up about $200,000, but stable. Sewer was about the same. It was 6.1 last year. It's 6.2 this year. Stormwater is 2.1, and that's it was 1.5 last year. And water actually did go up quite a bit. It went up to 3.2. And the big contributor to the water going up was there was a higher consumption rate, but the biggest thing was that we had budgeted about $800,000 in anticipation of borrowing for debt service, and we didn't actually go out in that fiscal year. We went out the following fiscal year, so we didn't need that money, so that generated that amount of free cash. So as a result, you'll see later, I'm going to take a big chunk of that money and throw it at distribution system work, replacing pipes. So that's sort of the summary of where we are with free cash. In that memo, I put a little 5-year history going back so you can see where we are. I don't know, do you have any questions about free cash, or everybody okay?
I have questions on the retained earnings.
Okay.
So free cash, you said 5 to 7% is the target. Retained
Yeah.
earnings, depending on the enterprise fund, you want 10 to 20%. What are retained earnings at for?
So there isn't really a guideline on where retained earnings should be. The state is less, they keep a less stringent eye on it. So what I look at is where you were in the previous year. And that's why I called out the water, because water was a lot higher. And I had to analyze why. Why was it higher? It was higher because we put something in there that we didn't use. We put the debt service in there that we ended up not doing until this fiscal year. So we use that as a guideline as opposed to a percentage, because the state doesn't have a recommended percentage for retained earnings.
But I guess I was trying to look, maybe my numbers could be wrong with the operating budgets for these enterprise funds, but for sewer, I believe it's 7.2 million based off the last number I saw. So our retained earnings would be roughly 86%, if that number I got was correct.
So the problem with the retained earning, the issue here is those are also cumulative over time. So if you want to look at the difference between this year and last year. So as a percentage, because we clean out the free cash every year, right? We take most of it, we put it away, so you're looking at the whole number. But with retained earnings, we don't do that, we leave a balance.
Earnings have to stick with that enterprise.
They don't have to, but we traditionally don't, we don't take them all out. There are stabilization funds for water and sewer.
Yep.
But we don't always put that money away. So last year, for example, I'll take stormwater, you see that had a $2.1 million free cash or retained earnings. But the previous year was 1.5. So the net surplus, it's the difference between those two, not the whole number. That's what you should be comparing to the budget, because that's the new amount, that's the amount we raised in surplus over what we collect, over
Okay.
what we budget.
Yeah, where I work in a sewer department, and we look at it as the percentage of the overall budget.
Yeah,
Tender.
and if you were cleaning it out every year, I would agree with you, but if you don't clean it out, which has been the history here, but a lot of the reason they don't clean it out is because those funds, they're so much smaller, and they're also, they're more volatile, because you're dealing with consumption, water and sewer rates. So you like to a lot of times you like to leave that cushion in there of, say, 1.5 million in each one of the accounts and not touch it, so it's there the next year. Because if you have a bad year and you have like 2.5, proposition 2.5, every year, you have a bad year or not, we're still raising 2.5%. But if people don't use their water one year, you could have a real drop in revenues. So that's it's handled a little bit differently, but I appreciate what you're saying, because it's not wrong, it's just, you have to look at it from a different perspective, because it's a different type of revenue. I don't know if that helps, but,
On water, do we have any incoming customers that are gonna be large users?
yes.
Like, I
state.
think Innovation Drive on North Street?
The biggest one is the state, and they're going to be
Big hospital?
very big, yeah, because they're connecting to the town
When?
right now as we speak. And so in the next fiscal year, we're going to be collecting a significant amount of revenue from the state. I mean, to the tune of, I think, between $500,000 and $800,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So it'll be a good thing for all the water work that we have to do. But yes, and so I don't know, Innovation Drive, I don't know yet. They're remodeling that. They're doing a $40 million investment over there. So, they'll have more users, but they're probably not the typical, they're not
Yeah, they're probably
high-end
not.
consumptions, so. But the state, definitely, there's going to be a big change with the state coming on board. And I think that's a good thing, so. But
And on stormwater, are you and Kevin looking at, it's, $75?
yeah, about looking at.
Changing the formula, or,
Yeah, and Kevin has some ideas about how we can, without changing the rate, we could collect more money about the way we define certain things. The good news is that, as you can see, our free cash, retained earnings and stormwater actually went up, so we were really kind of up against it this year when we put the FY26 budget together. The revenues are like really tight, but I didn't want to raise the rate because, there's only so much people can bear, so we put it off for another year, and I think we're okay, because you can see the free cash is still solid. And I think that Kevin and I are going to look at some different ways to try to strengthen that revenue without changing the $75, like changing the way things are classified. I think it would affect more commercial property than it would residential.
yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be important, because the new MS4 permit comes out maybe this year, maybe next year.
Yeah, because there's going to be, we're going to have to address it. Do you work, which sewer department do you work for?
Yeah, sewer, water, and with stormwater, yeah.
In Tewksbury?
In Lowell.
In Lowell, okay, all right. All right, good.
Okay,
Okay, you want me to move into the warrants?
sure, if you think.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so I'll do Article 1 first. So Article 1 is raise and appropriate funds, and the total amount that's being raised is $165,000. And so I know I put it in the memo to you, is that the receipts for the state aid went out, they were $800,000 higher than we expected. So that raise and appropriate will not impact the tax rate. Our levy in our calculation will still be the same, so it will not impact the tax rate in an adverse way. So that's a good place to start. And then I'll just go through each one of these line items on this amendment. So town manager's regular salaries, that's to cover the assistant town manager who, his termination, not termination, bad word, but his exit costs like sick time, buyback, and those things. So that's almost $12,000 to cover that. Town manager professional services, that is, there's a line item actually to cover archiving of social media. And we went over a certain volume to get over, it's like 10,000, hold on, I have it here. Here it is, 4,800. So this is through Civic Plus. We have a contract with them, and we have to upgrade our plan to the enterprise plan from the premium plan, because we have, exceeded 10,000 records per month in archiving. And it's going to be a permanent change to the budget, because that's not going away. It's the volume of records we're doing now. So it's a $4,800 increase to that contract based on our increase in volume of record keeping. So that's where that 4,800 comes from.
How many, you said it's for archiving social media?
Yeah.
So how many official kind of sites does the town have under different social media platforms? Is it just town of Tewksbury proper, or is it like Tewksbury Police, Tewksbury Fire?
It's Tewksbury Police, Tewksbury Fire.
So any official town?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. So it covers, even though it's in that one budget, it covers the whole town.
Okay.
Because that contract is with my office. Then administrative services, regular salaries. So that was, you may recall that just as I was coming on, they had a senior clerk in the accountant office, and they were moving that out, and they were going to move it over to the Human Resources Department. So they hired that position, but they hired him at an administrative assistance grade. So the budget that was in last year's budget was not enough to cover the level that they hired her at. And so that was a $12,000 change to the budget in order to get that person the level of experience that she had. And by the way, she's working out great. She's a great employee. I actually, the human resources is right next to my office, and I wasn't used to that because that wasn't like that when I was in Billerica. So it's incredible, the volume of work that they do. It's just constant. So they're always busy, but that's what that is. That's for that position. Planning and professional services, that's 10,500, and that is, hold on, I have that. Oh yeah, sealer of weights and measures. So that is, when we originally started that program with the town of Chelmsford, we had budgeted 19,500, thinking that would be enough. And we ended up, after everything was said and done, that the contract is $30,000 to cover that expense. So it's an additional 10,500. So we'll have to look and see when, after the first year, like what we're collecting for revenues, what we're bringing in, and then how that all compares with, what we're paying out, which is $30,000. And it'll be interesting to see how and if that changes, because sealer of weights and measures, when it was being done by NIMCOG, that they had a contract and they did a bunch of different towns. I kind of wonder if they weren't being as aggressive as they should be about keeping up with these all these different seals. So they seem to be doing a decent job of that, so maybe that'll impact the revenue. Let's see what the difference is. But the bottom line is, in order to fulfill that contract, we need to appropriate another $10,000. And I guess the bad news is there isn't a lot we can do about it because we have to have the service, and it kind of makes sense to do that in a regional perspective, because to hire someone to do that would be,
Cost a lot more.
yeah. And so $30,000, we don't have any legacy costs or anything, so it's still probably a good deal. Not as good as you hope it would be, but it's better than,
And that's done on a yearly basis.
yeah, yes, yes.
So that's gas stations,
Cash registers. And
the meat slicer thing at the store, that
Yeah,
stuff.
but it's getting more and more cumbersome because all of these electronic things like, like the cashiers and all that stuff, that all is under that sealer umbrella, so, which makes you think there should be more revenue associated with it as well, so all those things have to be calibrated, so.
Can we look at when the last time those rates were adjusted for us? We adjusted the cost?
Yeah, yes, we can do that. I can, let me just,
It's probably been a while.
yeah, I don't know offhand. I would guess it's been a while, because all that stuff is, and I don't know if that has to go through town meeting, and if it does, that's probably why it's never been changed, but they don't like to change fees, I've learned. But, all right, let me just write myself a note so you want to see the history of
Yeah.
the sealer rates.
Yeah,
Sealer rates. Okay.
thank you.
Is this person that's contracted out, who does enforcement? Or who makes sure that all gets
So
done?
it's an employee of the town of Chelmsford, so that would be,
So they go and do enforcement?
yeah, they do all that, yeah. And, oh, you mean like in our town though?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
It's a good-
how do we know that they're all done?
So,
All
we don't, but when we start to get the data, we're gonna have a better idea of, okay, well, this should be more than what we're seeing, so. It's kinda new, so we'll have to see, but, it's gonna be interesting to see how it shakes out, how it works. And then the next one is $46,000, and this is for an unanticipated early retirement in the fire department. And it also accounts for 2 promotions that are resulting from that. And so the total between the payouts and changes in salary grade is $46,000. And that's in the fire department. And then we're adding a stipend for emergency management. And right now, the town, I think it's me, was Richard before, was the emergency management person. Which, no offense, you're gonna be in big trouble if I'm the emergency management person, so I think it makes sense, and statutorily, it really belongs with the fire department. So Peter Smith is gonna be the, he just got the lieutenant's position, he's a training officer. He's got a military background, and he loves this stuff, and he's been doing all the trainings, all the 101, 102 classes for emergency management. So we were going to give that task to him, and also to create an operating budget of $15,000. We'll see how that goes. But this will allow him to do things, like when I was in, Billerica had a really good emergency management program. This guy, Bill Lorendo, headed it up, and he was a part-time employee. I think we paid him $17,000 a year to do it. And what he did, one of the things he did was he chased all the FEMA money. So whenever there was a snowstorm, he would go around and get how many hours DPW worked, how many sandbags you might have bought during a storm, all that stuff, and we would get reimbursed for all that. And then all that was almost like grant money, and he used it to buy things like emergency light, light generators and things like that. And those signs, road signs, and he's even bought some vehicles with it. But this, I think, would be a good opportunity to beef up that service that really is a little bit lacking right now. I mean, we haven't had any real incidents, but whenever sellers, I know, like Bill Ricka, Tewksbury has a lot of wetlands and a lot of flooding, and so the fire department's always out pumping basements and things like that. That's where your emergency management director would come in handy, helping to coordinate big events like that, which they happen every 3 to 5 years, and they can be quite disturbing. But they also coordinate with the regional, all the regional things, talking to the other different cities and towns, and being able to set up a warming center and/or actually an emergency center. So a warming center doesn't have to meet all the standards that an emergency center does. But that person will be in charge of making sure that that stuff is possible. So I think it's a hole that we're trying to fill, and for $20,000, I think it's a worthwhile insurance policy.
Okay.
And then the building salary budget adjustments, that is, there were 2 positions in that budget that they're not raises or upgrades, they were not recorded at the right grades. Let me see if I have that there. So one was the building commissioner himself. There was like an $8,000 expense there. Then there was a $600,000 impact on one of the clerks. And then there was also a wage deferral that needed to be put in there. And also longevity that was not in the budget so that all added up to $16,040.
So it's 6,000, not, said 600,000.
Oh, 16,000.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I say 600?
There was one, the building commissioner was one, then there was,
A clerk, administrative assistant, yeah.
that was one.
And most, well, I guess it's funny, a lot, I think she's retiring too, so that's one of the reasons. That's the wage deferral. And then also, she had a longevity number that wasn't in the budget, and that was 5,600, so it all totals up to 16,000. And then the last one is we're adding a position, we're adding a new DPW custodian to take care of the new building, the new DPW building. And the position is about a $53,000 annual position, but what's left in the year, it's a $43,000 appropriation to cover 43 weeks. And we have, right now, it's a kind of funky situation they have. There was a person that I've never met, well, I met her once. She hasn't worked, she's been out on disability, and we've been contracting out all the maintenance work in this building, and is it not the library? There's another the old. They were doing the old DPW. They're doing this building. They're doing another building, which one? Not the library. I know that.
Senior center?
No, there's a custodian in the senior center, and there's a custodian in the library, and then all the rest of the buildings are taken care of by this contractor that we use. But with the new DPW, we figured we better hire someone, and when and if that person comes back or that position is filled, we'll eliminate the consultant, and that person will take care of the rest of the buildings, which would be this one, the building next door.
So the new person will take care of,
Just the new person will take care of the new DPW building,
yep.
and also whatever happens in that building next door, the old DPW building. And then this building here, eventually, that person will either come back or be replaced. And we'll have a custodian for this building as well. So,
Right now, we're still contracting it
we're
out.
contracting it out.
Do we have a time frame as to when we might have an idea of when it's either gonna be?
I wish it all depends on the person that's out on disability when she's coming back, or if she's coming back. So, I'll try to get an answer from Human Resources, but it's hard to find, it's hard to determine. I don't think she's out, I'm not sure if she's actually if she's still getting paid. Because we pay our consultant, our contractor, obviously, but I'm not sure what the situation is with her pay.
How long has she been out for?
I would say a year and a half, maybe. Been out since before I came. So she's been out for a long time.
So is it cheaper to hire internally, or do you get better services by not contracting it out, I guess?
So it depends on who you get, but it can be a crapshoot because contractors, they don't always do a great job. And
That's why you gotta write a tight spec.
the best scenario is to have an employee that is a good employee, a dedicated employee, and then it works out great, you know. But they're not easy to find, you know, especially in that wheelhouse because it's not the highest paying job in the world. A lot of times you're better off hiring someone who's retired but wants to come to work every day, you know, and they're not looking for, it's not about the money, it's about coming to work. That's why it works out so well at the senior center, you know, because that attracts that kind of position. But I think it makes sense to, with that new building, I mean, just spent 35 million, is it 35 million we spent on that building? Or 25,
I don't remember.
yeah. Anyway, it was a good chunk of money and we want to maintain that building, so.
Absolutely.
So that's why that's in there. And so in total, that's 165,000. And then, like I said, that won't impact the levy at all. It'll still be the same. And that pretty much covers that warrant article.
I have a question on your executive summary.
Okay,
Just on the last sentence, this will not adversely impact the tax rate.
yes.
Do we want to, is the word adversely needed?
Well, yeah, because you can make the argument that if you didn't do this, the taxes would go down, right? So when I say it's not, it does affect the tax rate, right, in the theory, because that money that we got from the state would impact the levy if I wasn't using it to take care of this appropriation. But if this appropriation didn't happen, your taxes would go down by that $165,000.
Okay.
So I like to say, I do that a lot, like, because I don't want to say your tax rate's not being affected, but I want to be able to say it's not being affected adversely, meaning it's not going up. It's not going down, but it's not going up, yeah. So that's why I've done that. And then,
One quick question, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman. So, John, some of these are going to be recurring costs. Do you think you're going to be upping your local revenue projections in the future to cover them?
yeah, because the local revenue projection, well, the state aid actually went up, so that's covered. So, and frankly, with local receipts, that's not a big number,
No, but still,
165.
there are several of them that'll be recurring costs.
And
so-
they'll either be covered by state aid. What if state aid goes down next year? There's plenty of room in the receipts to cover that 165. So I don't see that, and it's not a big enough number to adversely impact the tax rate.
Oh, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying,
Or
someone may say, oh, if you're adding to the administrative services regular salaries on a regular basis, and fire regular salaries, and building regular salaries, were they under budgeted? And if they need to be rebudgeted on a regular basis, how are we going to pay for that?
So the answer is, that's all true. And yeah, it was under budgeted because there are certain things that, some of these were just misses and some of them we didn't know that were going to happen. But they will be incorporated into next year's budget, and the revenue is already there because, as I pointed out, it's part of the state aid. And if for some reason the state aid goes away, the local receipts will cover it.
See, you got the answer right there.
Yeah.
I'm anticipating that question
Yeah.
based on that, so.
Yeah, okay. And as you can see, it's 671,000 is still in eight, so, we're not even, we're only taking a third of what the state gave us, so. So, I think we'll be okay.
Thank you.
All right, and then Article 2 is free cash items, appropriations from free cash. So there's 2.46 million being appropriated from free cash, and so the first one is a $120,000 truck for the facilities and grounds crew, and it's a Ford F-350, and this will allow him to carry, he's transport all his equipment. Let me just open up my, where is that? This must be it here.
This is the Livingston Street stuff.
Yeah. Kind of like, it's like the Parks and Trees Department. Hold on, let me just, okay. So, yeah, so it's replacing a 2017 F-150, which has become obsolete. And the facilities and grounds demands and responsibilities have expanded, which is true. The new truck will have bins and cabinets to carry tools and things like that, and equipment. And it's a stronger truck. It's a V8. So it's definitely an upgrade on the truck, and it's replacing an old truck that was 2017.
Is the 2017 truck going to be repurposed, or is that going to be sold?
Let me get you the answers to that. Let me see if it's listed here as a trade-in. It doesn't say it's being used as a trade-in, but let me find out if it's going to be repurposed.
Yeah, because that could offset some of the costs, or be utilized by a different department.
And Mr. Chair, just through you, it says it's going to have the power to push snow. Does this include a plow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that it will be fitted with not only the storage that is referenced, but there'll also be a plow that it's fitted with. So there's not going to be an additional expenditure
No.
for that. Okay.
It says truck body and snowplow.
Okay. Well, and that's why I was in my head. I was like, I mean, I've never shopped for a pickup truck, but that seems twice as much. But if it's going to have special kind of equipment for its use, I guess.
All right, let me find out if it's a trade-in or not.
And if you could find out when we are expecting delivery of it.
What's that? Find out what?
When we are expecting delivery of it.
Oh, yeah, all right, I'll find that out. Well, obviously,
Was that one of the questions that we had when we were reviewing the there's no we no longer have to, like, any tariff question mark on any of this stuff, right?
Have any what?
Tariff question, like, I know when we were reviewing expenditures for the main budget,
Yeah,
some of the stuff that Al would be bringing up was, you know, that we're estimating this amount for the purchase price, but there could be kind of a tariff question
so,
mark. Is
I
any
mean,
of that in-
I can't say for sure whether that, I mean, this is, well, it's a Ford F-350. I would think probably not.
Like none of the equipment,
Yeah.
so, okay. And for all, I guess for all of the items under Article 2, I would ask, anything that's equipment, I guess I would ask the same question. Are these like actual written estimates that we've
They
already
are.
received? So we don't,
They're either quotes, or one of three quotes, or they're off the state contract list.
okay.
And they expire after a certain point, so. Okay, all right. So then the next item is, he's buying a facilities and grounds field striping painting machine, which I guess gets quite a bit of use. It's going to replace the 2014 machine. So that's, I guess that's over 10 years old. It's used 3 to 4 times a week to paint lines on the athletic fields. It's the most used piece of equipment in this department from April to November.
Baseball and softball.
And, yeah, anything that needs a field painted.
Oh, yeah, football.
Football. And so, all
And that is 21,000.
How much any field you can think.
right.
And then, I don't know if you recall, I don't know if I actually brought this to you guys or not, but we had 2 AC units at the rec center. One of them went down and we had to replace it. That was sort of an emergency thing. We did that. That was about 17 grand. And there's another unit down there that needs to be replaced, and that's 20 grand. And that's the third item here on this article. So that's being replaced. And then there's a Kubota tractor and mower, primarily a lawnmower. So we're gonna buy a new lawnmower with a collection system. It'll be used to trailer around and do the historical cemeteries, town hall, municipal buildings that need to be groomed. And it helps with the fall and spring cleanup. And so that's an $18,000 expense for that Kubota tractor and equipment. And
Where's the, this will all be stored down at Livingston Street?
yeah, down in his barns down there.
Oh, yeah, okay, beside the softball field.
And then police station, there is an $8,000 repair to an HVAC unit down there. Funding will be used to repair the drives that run through the damper motor for fresh air intake. And it will replenish fresh air, usually to cool the station down in the fall. So it's actually a cheaper way of cooling the building instead of straight air conditioning, so that's an $8,000 cost. So the chief had requested that. He also requested capital improvement to his walkways. There's a 29-year-old walkway that's kind of a safety hazard. It's $14,000. We get quotes on that. And so that will be repaired. It's an old concrete ramp, an existing block wall. The ramp will be reconstructed. And the entire structure will be concrete and will have handrails and will be rehabbed and painted, and addressing all the hazards and deterioration of that walkway. So that's $14,000. And then police motorcycles, he's going to be trading in some motorcycles. The total cost for the motorcycles is actually $61,000, but with the trade-ins, it is actually no, it's $52,000. He actually wanted 3. I said, well, we just buy 2 for now. So he's buying 2 motorcycles and $52,000 with the $17,000, $800 trade-in. So it comes out to $35,000 for the 2 motorcycles. And they're replacing, obviously, old motorcycles.
How many do we have total?
Let me see if I have that here. So we have 3.
Okay.
So 3 motorcycles, 2 are 2019 and 1 is 2014. They were seeking to trade all 3 of them, but we're doing 2. Oh wait, so he's trading.
We're trading in 3 and getting 2?
Hold on.
I think we're trading in 2 and getting,
Oh, it looks the trade-in value of the 3 motorcycles.
No, we have looked at so he says he only needs to replace 2.
Top line.
So he's trading in.
It says it's replacing 3 motorcycles with 2 new ones.
John, could you change the view on that so it's,
Yeah, John, I was just telling the chair, it looks like the first line of the description under police motorcycles says funding is for replacing 3 motorcycles from 2019 and 2014 for 2 new ones.
Yeah.
yeah, you just go to view page width.
Want me to make it bigger?
Yeah, I can't see that far.
Oh,
Yeah,
so,
you'll go to
Yeah.
page width.
oh, can I just do this?
There you go.
Yep.
Here we go. Whoops. Let's go to.
I need to get my eyes checked. Oh, that's better.
I also
Okay.
see that well.
So this is a draft of the handout, by the way, so I'm using it for my notes, so some of these things might all need to be updated, but I'm looking at the stuff he gave me as well, but it looks like he's trading in, they have 3 motorcycles, they're trading in 2 motorcycles to get 2 motorcycles.
Okay.
And then the total cost will be $35,000.
Okay.
So that description would need to be updated.
Well, wait, I stand corrected, I'm glad it gave me all this stuff. So I'm looking at the trade value package, and he's trading in, yeah, in the trade value, he lists 3 VIN numbers. So he must be trading in 3. So it's trading in 3 to get 2.
Okay.
And then the next item is it the ATVs?
Yep.
So he's buying 2 ATVs to replace 3 ATVs from 2016. And one is in fleet from 1997, only used for training. The trade-in value is $6,000 for the two 16 ATVs. Total cost of $24,122, which includes all the attachments and everything else. So he's getting two ATVs. And fire equipment, fitness equipment is 2 treadmills. The treadmills they have now actually they were used when they got them and they're pretty old, so they're replacing those. And I think that's a good thing. Those guys need to,
Gonna be in shape.
yeah. And then Livingston restroom, so if you, go down to the Livingston complex. Right now, the rec building's there, there's some bathrooms right there attached to the restrooms. And then down further and south of that, where the playground is, where the splash pad is, we're looking into putting in restrooms down in that end, because it would service that area with the playground, and also there's fields right across the street there. So if we do it, what we would do is we have to bring the sewer line in from the street. There's a water line, I believe, that already comes in there. And then we would buy one of those pre-constructed places you just drop it on a pad, one that we could just hose down, and it was something that would be easy to take care of. So that's what we're looking into, and that's something that we're trying to do to enhance that place. It wouldn't eliminate the need for porta potties, but it might make it easier for some of the people down there. A lot of times there's grandparents down there with their kids and stuff, their grandkids, and they don't like to climb into a porta potty.
No one likes to climb in the wood.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
and that was, Chair, I had two questions about this one when I saw it, because one was, the porta potty's going to be gone. Will that cost be gone? And it sounds like the answer is no.
Yeah.
And then the second one is, how is it going to be secured and maintained? Because I know in Wilmington, when they built the beautiful Yentile complex,
Yeah.
beautiful bathrooms that they had to lock in a week and have not been opened really, unless there's like a town event, because of vandalism and just when you have a complex, unfortunately, where there's a lot of kids
Yeah.
and people, and sometimes people don't make the best choices in those situations. So what would be the expectation as to access and maintenance?
So we talked about this because we also, there's existing bathrooms down there now, which would have been open most of the season. Haven't really had any incidents, but they have had incidents in the past. But we were talking about maybe putting timers on them so that they open and close, so that if by chance that no one there to open and close, and they'll at least close at a certain time. That's probably the best way to control it. It's not a foolproof, because all those things could happen. I mean, I remember we did a Bill Ricker down at Lamson Field in Peggy Hannah Rizzo complex. I don't know if you've ever been down there. Spent $1 million on that building, and it had beautiful bathrooms. Well, it's probably 2 weeks into it, and I mean, they were just trashed. And it wasn't that they were vandalized, it was they had a real wet day, and the kids just trashed the place, So, I mean, my big thing is, can you winterize it easy enough? Can they be cleaned very easily, like with a pressure washer? And then that would make it a little easier. Not perfect, but bathrooms are tough because they don't get used all the time. I mean, plumbing isn't good to be sitting around idle, and it needs to be used, That's why a lot of people went to porta potties, because I remember when people were building high schools, and the plumbing board was saying you have to have 900 bathrooms for this stadium that really only gets used on the Thanksgiving game. So you have all these bathrooms that sit idle for the whole season, and then they break. And so so I don't think the expectation should be that you're going to eliminate porta potties, but maybe make it a little easier, for people to, maybe older people to use them, That's the best I got.
Yeah. Do we have, not having children kind of in sports in town, do we have contacts for the different youth sports
Yeah.
organizations that we could kind of maybe do,
We do that.
agreements or understandings with them that when they have kind of big tournaments, or when they have they know that softball is using it all weekend, that there's a point of contact that could just be checking in and letting the town know if there's an issue, so that there's not,
So that
like
is
a
part of
clogged
the-
toilet that runs all weekend and then.
That is part of their
DPW finds
permit
it.
process, and
Okay.
so, and if they sometimes some don't want to use the regular bathrooms, because they don't want the responsibility.
Right,
So they say, no, they can use the porta potty.
yeah.
But if they do, yeah, we ask them to lock them up and open them up and lock them up. But, yeah, and then you know, if there's any problems with them, we usually have to go back to the organization, but.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking of the expense of if something happens on a Saturday and our staff doesn't see it till Monday.
Yeah,
There's ways to kind of alleviate that.
yeah, no, and they have, and Vinny's been pretty good about that, so, but it's just not perfect, bathrooms are tough.
Yeah.
Is this based off a construction estimate? This seems relatively cheap, depending on
Well, so
structure
there's.
you're looking at,
It
but
could be, like, we're gonna spend some time we're gonna try to, you know, design it and figure out what it's gonna cost. We might have to come back.
I was gonna say 200 doesn't sound like
Yeah.
enough for it.
Yeah, yeah. It could be more.
Yeah.
So, what we might have, in the spring, we might have a better idea of what the total amount would be, but I was hoping that we could do some of the work, you know, in-house, meaning like the line and stuff like that, but I'm not sure that they have the resources to do that down there, so you probably know better than I would, but,
200,000 is cheap, so
yeah,
I would take it.
yeah. And then, because of the free cash number, I put $2 million in for sidewalk improvements. Not sidewalk, I'm sorry, road and sidewalk improvements. And so we're gonna put $1 million toward that project up in, at Livingston. They got 850,000 out of the feds for that project, so this will help supplement that project. And then the other $1 million would go towards more road work, Chapter 90 work that we need to get done. So the impetus for this is that, as you know, they have that roadway management plan, they do a study, and you have a grade, and the grade is like I think it's like a 76 or something like that. You want to, and that's not bad, and you want to maintain that. And in order, the projection was to maintain that, you have to spend like $5 or $6 million a year. We don't spend that. We spend maybe $1.5 million a year, and that's $5 or $6 million on actual construction, not on design, and because a lot of road work is engineering. So so I thought with this level of free cash, we could throw some money at some of the road work to get some of it done. And similarly, we did same thing with some of the retained earnings for water. But hopefully that'll help out a little bit. And so they get about I think they got 1.8 million in Chapter 90 funds this year. So 1.8 for that, and then $1 million, that's 2.8 million there. So still a long way to go to spend the money we should be spending on roads. And that covers that one. And then the next one is unpaid invoices. And is that right? Let me get my warrant.
Yep.
Yeah, the unpaid
Yes,
bill.
okay. And so that's just three things that actually four that needed to be covered. And it adds up to just under $20,000. Craft Power, CMB Tractor, Brock's Industries, Impact Fire Services, mostly DPW, One Council on Aging expense. But you gotta use, you can't use, it has to be free cash or some other reserve fund, because it can't be from a appropriation from the current fiscal year to pay prior year bills, which I think you all know.
Yep.
Yep.
And what is it, 3/4 vote? Or it's a big vote, it needs to be either 3/4 or,
2/3.
Yeah, that's
Or majority.
I think it's 2/3.
is it 2/3?
Yeah.
So-
Dustin.
So that's that, and then, so and then we're moving 4.5 million into stabilization, and I'll explain that. That is, hold on one second. So as part of the town policy, we repay the stabilization fund for what we took out in the spring. which was $2.1 million. I didn't do that right. I missed one. There it is. So $2.1 million, we want to put that back in, and then we're putting back in what will be remaining, which is the $2.4 million. And that brings you up to 4.552. So that'll be left after we after we put all the other items first, after we use the rest of free cash. The only thing left in free cash would be $600,000, which we use for snow and
Right.
ice.
What will the stabilization fund be after that?
I have to get you a balance, but it might be in here, hold on. No, it's not. I'll get you that balance, but,
That's fine, yeah. Because we usually do get a question of, if you've got that much in free cash, why aren't you, I mean, in stabilization, why isn't that going to reduce the rate,
yeah.
tax rate? But I'm sure there is a percentage of what we should be having in the stabilization fund.
There is, and I was just looking at that, it says percentage of your equalized valuation, and we're not even close to that number. Equalized valuation is like 6.4 billion, and it can't be over 50% of that or something like
Right.
that. So we're not.
That'd probably be good to have in the handout, because that's a question that happens every year.
Oh, yeah, so I'll.
They used to accuse Richard of squirreling money away.
So let me write that down, so you want the
And your
balance?
stabilization fund affects your bond rating too, right, for the town?
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
The direct reason.
yes, you bet.
Balance in stabilization and percentage allowed in stabilization. Okay, and then, so that's what's going into that fund, and then I'm doing something new this year, setting up a debt stabilization fund, so in the eyes of like the creditors, they don't really care what you call it, all they care about is that you have money in a big fund. They look at it as like one big fund, but for us, I wanted to start creating a debt stabilization fund in anticipation of future debt down the road, so I did it when I was in Billerica, and I created a debt stabilization fund, and so there's not a policy for it yet, but what I'm thinking about for a policy similar to stabilization, so the policy for stabilization is 25% of what's remaining after you take out the 600,000 and whatever you had to pay back from the previous one. And then what I would do from there is I think I was thinking about 25%, $1 million or 25%, whichever is greater, of the remaining balance to go to debt stabilization. And the reason I want to do that is because what you do with the debt stabilization fund is you create like a calendar or a projection schedule. So what I did with Billerica was there's $22 million in that account over time, and I would put money away each year from free cash. It was 1.8 million every year. That was the amount I put in. And then what else would do, which we're not doing that right now, but that might come into play down the road, is that if your debt service reduced, you didn't reduce your debt service. So say your debt service was $6 million a year, and then it went down to 550. Then you would appropriate the difference to the debt stabilization fund, not reduce your commitment to debt service for that year. So when the years were good and you were going down, you were putting money into that account. And again, I use that word, it doesn't adversely impact the tax rate. It doesn't go down, but it doesn't adversely impact it. So then you would do that and you put money in from debt stabilization. But then when you went over a certain amount, you would use the money from debt stabilization to reduce the impact of debt service on the levy. So then I put a schedule together where I think we were doing a high school and a elementary school, and the promise was the impact won't be greater than $200 a year on the average single-family household. So I took the debt schedule, spread it out over 25 years, and then looked at what the impact would be on the average single-family household, and then put a schedule together of how much you would have to bring that down each year to hit that number. And it worked out great because you could do it every year and never deplete your debt stabilization fund, because you're always putting money into it, and then you'd be taking money out. It's best, obviously, if you're putting more in than you're taking out, but the more money you put in over time, then the better prepared you are to be able to do something like that. So I wanted to start it now and put money into it, and then if you're using it 7 or 8 years down the road, then you've got a balance in there that you can start doing a schedule that you can decrease the debt, basically lower the tax rate in those years by that amount, and whatever it is, it's $1 million. The highest I ever used out of the debt stabilization fund was like 1.5 million. So that brought the tax rate down by, I think, about $50. And so at least it says to the taxpayer that you're trying to minimize the impact of debt service on the taxpayer. And so one question I got was, well, you could use that on the water debt. Well, technically you could, but water debt is sustained by the rates, and I would just leave that alone and use it for general debt if new general debt came on. Now, where I'm going is that sooner or later, you're gonna have to address those schools. And whether it's rehab or a new school, it's gonna be a big number. And if you have a debt stabilization fund, it will help you to reduce that impact, and, protect the taxpayer. So if you look at a debt schedule, if you do nothing with your debt schedule goes like this, goes down every year. And that's great, but what happens is that money gets taken by other things like collective bargaining contracts, crash contracts, and you don't see the lost opportunity. Your debt service should always be stable. It should be the same amount, because you should be investing in your infrastructure every year, and you shouldn't let it. That's what happens in communities that don't take care of things. The debt service goes down and everyone thinks it's great because you have less debt. But then you're not in a position to invest because you never kept that commitment up to debt service, to infrastructure. So that's just the first step in trying to do some of those things. And like Richard did a great job with, he borrowed money on shorter terms, like 10-year terms. So he always had a lot of debt coming off the books all at once, which is really good. I'm just trying to add to that and say, let's have a debt stabilization fund so that when and if you have to take on more debt, you'll be able to use that to help defer, or not defer, but to lessen the impact of debt service and the tax rate. Does that make sense?
Kind of like a tax rate insurance policy.
Yeah, it's kind of like, if you're a geek like me and you don't use free cash for continuing expenditures, right? So someone could say, well, isn't that what you're doing there? It's not if you projected it out in a finite manner and said, we're gonna need $20 or $30 million to do this, right? And so if we put away 1.8 million or 1.5 million a year for 20 years, we're gonna get that number. And over time, we're gonna use that. Then it's gonna go away. But you're never in a situation where you're completely dependent on it,
People don't like volatility in the tax rate every
And
time you
that's
have to do
what I'm
something.
trying to-
So this
Yeah,
lessens that,
it does.
flattens it.
It gives
It
people
flattens it, you're right.
expectations,
Well,
And-
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It was just, there was, two questions again through the chair. I don't know if it's Article 5 or Article 6 that the questions would be, because Article 6 kind of talks about what you want to do with the initial amount you want to fund the fund with,
Yeah.
should 5 pass. I think you already kind of answered that, the next probably large expenditures in town that would require some type of incurring of debt would be schools. Is that like some of the schools?
Yeah, like 7 or 8.
So there's no other projects that you're aware of more eminently?
Well, I know that obviously water is one, but like I said, I think you should try to stick with the water rates for that. In terms of large facilities that the only thing, I mean, you've done over the last 20 years,
Right.
you've got a senior center, you get police station, fire station. You might have to do some work to one of those fire stations at some point. And then if recreation ever became an issue, you're ever going to do something like that.
Okay, but it's not, I guess, so the question that I just want to confirm is, you are not aware of a new build that's going to be asked of the town in like the next year or two? Because I think
No.
one of the concerns would be that this makes sense to set up for more like long-term planning, that
Yeah.
if we know something might be 10 years from now, it makes sense to start planning for it now. But I think the concern would be setting this up, and then in 2 years, we all of a sudden are doing some type of big project that wasn't
Right, in 2
anticipated.
years, you wouldn't have enough money in this fund to do anything, so that's why you have to start way in advance.
Right,
And, I mean, I don't want to like back the select board into a corner and say, oh, you have to commit to building $100 million this for tomorrow. But I also don't want to ignore the fact that there's a facility study going on right now that is investigating what they're going to do. And if somewhere on the road, they're going to make a decision to do something, and this is just addressing that eventuality that you need to plan for that, you know?
okay. And then the second question I think that most people would ask is kind of what's the current debt we're carrying? Like, what are the projects we're still carrying debt on? And I think Richard had done this at one point when I first got on this board.
Yeah.
Of just kind of like when those debts kind of drop off the books, that then more money could go into this fund. As you were suggesting, as we pay
Yeah.
down one debt, we can kind of take those funds and shift it into planning for whatever future debt might be.
Right, and so I haven't, that's a bigger nut to crack, because getting people to agree to do that would be, it's just, I mean, it's more difficult than using free cash, because people are like, well, I don't want to appropriate money that we don't need to appropriate. But, and I don't know I guess the short answer is that Richard did have a schedule, and like I said, 70% of the debt is coming off the books in 10 years.
Okay.
And one of the financial policies in town is that you have to have 50% of the debt has to be coming off the books in every 10 years, which basically is saying you have to be very aggressive about borrowing and borrow money in shorter periods of time. So that's all very positive. But then, you know, if you took it to that, the first level is let's start putting money away. The next level would be let's start trying to keep the debt service number from going down by putting more money away. And then, but I'm not going to do that in one
Right.
town meeting, you know.
Right, no, little bites.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for people to know kind of that 10-year mark, because I think that, to me, this makes sense to be doing this now,
Yeah,
because we don't have an immediate build on the horizon. So it's not like we're doing this and then again in a year, It sounds like we're planning for something that might be coming down the road in like 8 to 10 years when other debt would be falling off
that's
anyway.
exactly what it is. And like, I could say nothing and say, all right, let's just put it all in regular stabilization and not talk about it for 8 to 10 years. But this is a way to educate people about what you're doing, so that when you start to do it, people go, oh yeah, this is what we've been talking about for 7 years. Instead of just springing it on and saying, no,
Right.
we don't want to do that, So, and that's how I did it in Billerica, where I just kept bringing it up every year at town meeting and saying, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. And eventually people bought into it, So it's about trying to educate people into how it works, so. So I think that's a good thing. There's really there's no adverse impact by doing this. You're putting money away, you know? And the rating agencies are gonna look at it and say, great, more stabilization money. And then the key is someone might turn around and say, well, when you start taking money out of it, it's gonna lower your credit rating. But if you're still putting money in, you know, maybe it goes down 500,000 in 1 year, but it's not going down 3 million.
Right.
And so if you have 22 million in there and it went down 500,000,
It's not gonna be.
you're okay, you know? So that's all goes into the planning of it, you know? So it should work out. We'll see how it goes over at town meeting. And so that's that one. So there's two for that one. One sets it up.
Yeah.
That's Article 5. And then one puts money into it. That's Article 6.
Yep.
And then Article 7. This is retained earnings for water. So $1 million will be going towards the distribution system. And I know Kevin gave me a thing for that too. Oh, here we go. So he wants to do construction of water main replacement, new water service connections on Nelson Avenue from Main Street, Foster Street to Main Street, with construction anticipated to occur during the 2026 construction season. So that's work that we can expedite, move up, that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do if we didn't do this. So I think that's probably a good thing. He wants to do a study for sludge residual process alternative analysis.
You understand those words?
Yes, it's very good. So sludge costs are going through the roof right now because of PFAS and other pollutants of concern, so we're actually doing the same thing. So it's very valuable for the town to get ahead of it now before costs go out of control.
And, yeah, and then, so what is the ultimate resolution going to be? You're just going to have to dispose of it now? Or?
So I'm not sure how they're disposing in Tewksbury, but you can do lagoons, you can do drying beds, you can do centrifuges, pyrolysis. There's a slew of
Yeah.
alternatives you can do. Essentially, you want to make that as dry as you can because you pay for every ton that you have to haul off site.
Yeah, I just remember when we had it, Billerica, it cost so much money to dry it out because they had these giant fans, and the electrical costs were huge.
Yeah.
So even though you were making it into compost and you were giving it away and you were selling it,
They stopped doing that pretty quick though, too.
you end up losing money in the end. So they stopped doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Lowell, that line item for wastewater is $5 million alone, just to remove the sludge at wastewater.
So then they want pump and VFD replacements. They've been doing that on a regular basis, but the costs are going up, so he wants to add $400,000 to that.
Do you know with the pump and VFD replacement if they're taking advantage of the GAP grants through National
If they're
Grid?
taking advantage of which grant?
The GAP grants through National Grid? They're very good cost savings programs that you can
Let me
utilize
see.
for that.
I'll see if he's
Thanks, sir.
doing that.
It's the GAP grant 4 right now.
Okay. So that's that one, and then Article 8. Oh, all right, so this is one that actually, we're gonna take money from the PFAS settlement, which PFAS settlement is, we received about $800,000 from that. And, we're gonna use some of that money to do a study, and part of it will be the study. I did this in Billerica, actually, to get rid of the third shift. Third shift, you have to pay, night differential, and it's expensive because of the labor costs. So if you get rid of the third shift, in order to do that, you have to upgrade the SCADA system and all the cybersecurity issues. I think that costs us about $200,000 just to do that piece of it. And then, but then we eliminated the third shift, and, because ultimately, Kevin was talking to me about how there's gonna be a need for another employee in the water and sewer department. I said, well, let's try this, see if this will help save us some money, and see if we can do that, and then you'd be more you'd have an easier time trying to come in. That person on the third shift maybe could move to that, whatever that position is you're looking for.
Was that midnight to 8 a.m.?
You probably know better, is that what it
We
is?
do 11 to 7 in the morning
Yeah, 11 to 7, yeah.
in each town. Have you already reached out to Mass DEP to see if this is going to be approved for Tewksbury?
No, not yet, no.
So I guess this 400,000 is contingent on approval and if there's an ROI essentially for this program? Because you're not going to do any of the skate improvements unless you can
Yeah,
go on.
yeah,
So this is all contingent based off that initial study before you do any skate or cybersecurity.
oh, right, we wouldn't do any of the skater work until we did the study,
So
so,
this is going to be a multi-phase
yeah.
program
Yeah.
to get there.
But why wouldn't they approve it, you know? Well, unless if it's not efficient, then obviously we wouldn't do it, but,
It depends on how the system's set up and if
Yeah.
it's public health and safety essentially. If you have enough storage offline, how you're going to respond
Yeah.
to alarms, there's a lot of different variables that go into allowing it.
yeah, all right. So that's that one, and then CPA, the athletic director came in looking for some money for, to rehab their field. Their infield, varsity infield, that's $22,000 expense. That was approved by the CPA committee, about a month ago. And then there's two articles in here for North Street. So North Street, we're trying to do something similar that we did with the Trahan, which is try to lease the property, which is a way to avoid having to tear it down and pay for that expense, which should probably be north of $2 million at this point. Having torn a similar school down in Billerica, the Vining School, with the same type of utilities that run underground underneath the hallways, they're all laden with asbestos, and we tore down a 1920 school. It was a lot cheaper than tearing down a 1950 school. So we want to, that's something worth avoiding, but there is some interest in using that from an educational purpose. One of a hockey academy was looking at it, so we would do an RFP similar to what we did with the Trahan site, and hopefully they can reuse the property. So there are two articles associated with that. The first one is to authorize the board to implement or initiate a lease process through an RFP. And then in order to extend it beyond 30 years, you have to do a home rule petition to go to the legislature, which is what we did with the Trahan. And that would require the legislature to approve it. So that second article is for that.
All right, that was confusing to me, so I'm glad you explained it that way.
So, yeah, so
You have to do the 30 years, otherwise Article 11, you'd have to pull it if you
yeah.
didn't approve
Yeah.
Articles.
So the Article 11 gives you the 99-year lease.
Excellent.
And then 12,
Well, I got a question on,
Yeah.
on 11. That hockey, you've reached out to them a lot, right?
I did. So we finally got them to pay
Did
attention.
finally pay attention?
And they actually I had them walk through the site, and they told us that they would bid, at least they would bid on it, so.
Okay.
So we'll, I think it's worth doing, you know. Yeah, so they have some interest in the site. It took a while, but they,
Yeah, I think we were talking about
yeah.
Yeah,
Couple
2 years ago.
I didn't think they would, eventually I thought they would walk away, but they didn't.
That's okay.
And then Article 12, this is to lease a small portion of the Heathbrook School for a cell tower use, which would provide revenue to the town and provide a coverage in a gap area, which I think a lot of people experience up in that area of town. So I have no idea how this will go over, because it's probably been a long time since you've had one of these. It's on the back of a school property, so people could raise their hackles about that. But if you actually read the literature on it. I mean, cell tower, they go out this way. So the best place to be is right underneath the tower because the waves don't come down, they go out. So that's sort of a, I don't know if myth is the right word, but the danger is not really under the tower itself, but danger is in your pocket next to your
But
ear.
it'll look like the cell tower, like, next to the, right at the end of Dascom Road. It won't be the flagpole out in front of it.
Yeah, at this point, it's not, yeah, this, unless town meeting says,
That's what it was supposed to be.
You know, it's the worst flagpole. I think you're gonna get a lot of NIMBYs. There's no planning board in this, right?
well, they have to, I believe they have to, actually, no, they don't, do they? This is just for a lease, yeah. You probably will get,
You're gonna get a lot of NIMBYs.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, I guess we'll see. I mean, if it doesn't pass, I mean, it doesn't pass, I mean, I'm not gonna lose any sleep.
It sounds like a great opportunity,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
What
mean,
would,
that's,
what would be the expected revenue?
I think it's like 30,000 a year. It's 30,000 a year, I think, yeah, roughly, those things. Depends on how many people are on the tower, too, you know, so it could be more, but they're not as lucrative as they used to be.
No.
So, and then,
revenue is revenue.
Article 13 is moving the stormwater regulatory control from the planning board over to conservation. And I think the reason they're doing that is it's a cumbersome process now. It's so many public hearings. So conservation's already having a public hearing for wetland issues, so their stormwater hearing can be combined with the wetlands hearing, and that streamlines a little of the impact. And conservation, that board has familiarity with wetlands issues and stormwater, so they kind of go hand in hand. So moving it from the planning board over to the conservation is, I think DEP recommends that. And engineering does all the work for the most part. When I was in Billerica, we actually moved it into the DPW. That's a little bit more complicated because you have to create something analogous to a public hearing process.
Will those boards be voting on that so that they can back that up at town meeting?
Yeah, well, the planning board, well, that's actually not a zoning bylaw, it's a general bylaw, so are they required to? No, but should they? Yes.
Well, I'm just saying, these kinds of changes always get people nervous.
Yeah,
I mean, you look at these many pages, no one's a legal analyst, although, I mean, some people are, and they'll nitpick little things there, but if you had the planning board, voting and saying, yes, we like this idea, and the Conservation Commission doing the same thing.
Conservation Commission did do that. I was on Conservation
did?
Commission before this, so we actually voted on this before, informally voted.
and they were in favor of it, I presume.
It'd be good to have that as like part of the handout, otherwise,
Yeah, you're right,
people,
I'll
the
find out.
anxiety level goes up.
Right.
with
The
these.
burden's coming to Concom, and we were fine with
Yeah.
it. It's gonna be, you're talking about 1 to 5 projects that don't trigger WPA requirements, but fall under MS4, so you're
Right.
not talking about the slew of projects. This is gonna impact Concom where it wouldn't already impact them.
Because there's not enough that you can put in the executive summary that would
Yeah,
bring that anxiety level down, and I think having it in the notes like that, being able to reference it would just take it down a notch.
yeah, I'll find out. And that's Article 13?
Yes.
Thank you, though, I didn't know they voted on that.
All right.
Good.
And then the last two are petitioners' articles. I think they sort of came out of requirements from different permits or approvals. One is for sidewalk easements. So, let me just go, just for your own informational purposes. They're not town articles, but
Do they have any financial implications of the easement?
No, no. So the first article was to allow the select board to accept the sidewalk easement located at 230. So they must have, whatever board passed this must have required them to provide an easement so a sidewalk could be established. And I don't know what, I mean, I don't have the plan in front of me, but it's in the clerk's office, but it probably might only be a sliver of whatever they needed, but it's whatever, I'm guessing one of the boards required that. And the second one, purposes for the select board to abandon the current 8-foot wide easement. It's so they're relocating a drainage easement. So again, these are petitions articles. I'll ask the DPW, I'll see if I can find out where these originated,
Thank you.
and then see if the town has any opposition to them.
Yeah.
I don't
think
think they
especially
do.
for Article 14. Article
Yeah.
15 seems like it's just a private citizen looking to do something on their own
Yeah,
property.
build an addition.
But the 2131, I think we're just trying to figure out where it is.
Yeah.
I think it's the mango too. It's that, those condos that they put in the left over there.
Oh, okay.
Oh, those.
Mango too. I know, I just did it too, because like 230.
Yeah.
Where is that?
Article 14.
Hate to say it, but I don't know where Mango 2 is.
So the original Andover Bank was.
Yeah, keep going by.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay,
Like that,
okay,
that neck of the woods.
Okay,
okay. Well,
Past the-
all right.
Yeah, before Walgreens.
And that is the whole warrant.
I don't have a reason to go left anymore than to go to TD Bank. Okay, any other questions on the warrant?
Do you guys see, so it sounds like maybe the cell tower one and the general bylaw one might,
Those tend to be what people zone in on
Yeah.
with anxiety, yeah. But other than that, everything else looked fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
There might be some confusion with the new debt stabilization
Yeah.
fund, but I don't think it'll be anxiety. I think it'll just be more confusion.
right, and where I hope most people will be able to figure out that it's not going to have a negative impact on anything unless
No, no, and
the
I
people,
think it's a great way for people to see flat, get
Yeah.
out of that pattern of the bouncing
Right.
tax rates when we have a big project.
right. Yeah, it's worked, it was amazing the way it worked in the rental. I'm like, hey, this actually works the way I said it would. So they, every year we did the thing, and you know what I thought would happen, and it didn't happen? Was they thought over time that the values would go up, in that maybe would be able to contribute less money to
Right.
meet the goal. Doesn't work that way. The values and the rates are inversely related. So the impact stays pretty much the same as what you did when you started out. So it worked out. It was pretty good, and
No, it's an interesting concept. There's always going to be a big program on the horizon.
Right.
yeah, and
Someday you're gonna have to change the police station again,
Right.
or, another school
The-
again.
Yeah, the North Street
Yeah,
fire station.
there you go.
yeah, but it allows you to take on things with less impact to the taxpayer,
Yeah.
What you want.
That's a huge thing.
Yeah. Yeah, so, no, it's, but I don't think there's anything crazy in there.
Yeah.
How does, Evan, just on the conservation
Yep.
one, how does Lowell do it?
Lowell doesn't, in terms of stormwater?
Yeah,
So all stormwater comments come to the wastewater utility, and we'll essentially comment, give them back to the planning board for any large development. So any large project that triggers MS4 is gonna be a planning board issue in Lowell.
okay.
Because we don't have there's not as many wetlands in Lowell as there are in Tewksbury,
Yep.
So it's in the jurisdiction of the planning board?
for the most part, yeah.
So what we did in the record was we put it in the jurisdiction of DPW, and then people were like, well, you don't have a hearing process. So what we did was, we said, okay, whenever you have this, you have to notify the abutters like you would in the hearing process. send them a letter. It was, the person, the petitioner or the sponsor would have to do it. And then the engineering department, any comments would be sent into the engineering department, and they would answer every comment and produce a list of all the comments and send it back out to whoever asked for them. And that way you have a record of it, just like you would in a public hearing. It's just that you never had a public hearing. So it worked. People said, okay, and I wanted to do it that way because, you know, the engineering, they do all the work. You know, conservation and planning, they just defer it to them and they do everything and they bring it back to them, you know? So, then the other issue is, you said it's all the big projects, the ones that get lost are the little ones that are handled administratively
Right.
or not. Some of them aren't handled at all, so we changed it so that, you know, the whole handheld effect, you know, where you have homes that have to be built above the water table a certain amount, so all the new homes are up here, and the ones that are up there like this, so then they have these lots where the water's running off the house lot and going into the guy next door. And then the guy next door is saying, well, how come you didn't do anything? The building commissioner says, I don't have jurisdiction over that.
Yeah.
And so you had to find somewhere to cover that, so it had to be administratively handled by, and Bill Rickard was engineering. But that was a little dicey. There's a lot of the local developers, they didn't like that.
Yeah.
They don't like the, you know, the eyes and the regulation, you know?
Right.
Okay, so that's it for the warrant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next thing we have is, we have a set of meeting minutes from the,
Do we don't have any
July 20
transfers?
nope, no
No
transfer.
transfer?
July 21st meeting. Anybody have any comments on those?
Nope, I reviewed them. I'm willing to move them.
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. It's a unanimous vote. And so the next meeting will be on the 29th. We'll be meeting Lindsay's son.
You're like 4 days old.
Yeah. I don't think he has to come to that meeting just yet.
Yeah.
And Evan, you're on vacation?
Correct.
But we gotta,
Make sure that we get Rob and Jason.
Rob and Jason will be here. So that'll,
Your son can vote for that.
Yeah.
You can proxy it.
yeah, proxy, yeah.
See, if the first word would be aye.
Yeah.
Pretty good story.
So the public hearing will be at 7 o'clock on the 29th.
Yeah, great.
In here or there?
7:30 to 7.
It says
Seven.
7 on this.
7.
7, yep. Yeah, don't you think?
I think usually it's in here. right?
Usually, yeah, we usually have them in it, didn't
Yeah.
we?
We used to have them in there and no one showed up, so I figured if no one's gonna show up, we might as well have it
The
here.
2 people that might come.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I just have to make a mental note to do the 2, let them go first. You know, so
Yeah.
sit here, make,
I'll sit here and remind
From the
you.
public?
okay, is nothing else?
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.